Chosen one, listen carefully. Heaven has interrupted the noise around you. The rhythm of time itself slows, as if invisible hands have pressed pause, not by coincidence, but by divine intention. This moment you're standing in is not ordinary. It is an appointment, a sacred pause before motion. Something in the unseen is shifting, and your spirit can feel it. You've noticed the change, the restlessness that has replaced comfort, the way familiar things suddenly feel too small. That's not anxiety, that's divine stretching. Heaven expands you before it elevates you. The places that once fit are now too tight because you've outgrown what once confined you. You've walked through storms that left others stranded. You've endured silent seasons where prayers echoed back empty. You felt hidden, forgotten even. But what you thought was abandonment was actually construction. Every heartbreak carved wisdom into your spirit. Every delay built depth. Every rejection refined discernment. There was once a young man named Elia, a chosen one in his generation. He waited years for the vision God placed in his heart to make sense. People around him mocked the quietness of his life, saying, "He has wasted his time." But Elia's waiting became his weapon. When the appointed moment came, he was not just ready, he was refined. You are walking that same road. You may not understand it now, but you will. The silence you're enduring is not empty. It's sacred soil where faith takes root. You wonder why certain paths closed, why people walked away, why opportunities slipped through your fingers. It's because the Father shields what He's still shaping. There are rooms not ready for your presence yet, and there are people who cannot handle your next level of light. The separation is not punishment, it's positioning. It is written in the book of Job, chapter 23, verse 10. He knows the way I take. When He has tested me, I shall come forth as pure gold. Gold does not complain while in the fire, it trusts the process. And you, chosen one, are that gold. The flames you feel are not meant to destroy you, but to define you. Every trial is tempering your faith for the days ahead. Look closely. This world is entering a season where only those anchored in divine truth will stand firm. Distractions multiply. Noise grows, lude. Fear spreads fast. Yet amid it all, there is a remnant who walks differently. You are that remnant. You've been awakened early because heaven trusts you to hold the line when others waver. Your journey is like a bow being drawn. The tension you feel is not failure, it's the force that will launch you forward. The longer the pullback, the farther the reach. Hold steady, the release is near. You're being aimed by heaven toward divine targets you don't yet see. Think of it like a sunrise hidden behind thick clouds. The sky still brightens, even if you can't see the sun. That's how destiny moves quietly, consistently, invisibly. Just because you don't see progress doesn't mean God has stopped working. The roots of your promise are growing deep beneath the surface. So take heart. You are not behind. You are being refined. You are not forgotten. You are being focused. Heaven has not ignored your tears. It has counted them. Each one is a seed of faith that will bloom in its season. These coming days are crucial, not because they are dark, but because they are defining. What you choose to do in stillness will determine what you can handle in movement. Keep your heart soft. Keep your faith sharp. Keep your eyes fixed upward. If this message stirs something within you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their waiting has purpose. Like this message if it resonates in your spirit, and subscribe so you can walk with other chosen ones walking this same narrow path. Comment 777 below as your declaration that you are staying ready for what heaven is about to release. The tests are not here to break you, they're here to reveal the gold hidden inside you. You will emerge from this fire radiant, refined, and ready. You are entering a moment where heaven is preparing to unveil what was hidden. The silence that once felt unbearable will soon make sense, because revelation always follows refinement. Keep your heart steady, your spirit awake, and your hands clean. The same fire that tested you is the fire that will illuminate you. Soon, the light will break through the clouds, and everything you endured will testify of grace. Walk forward unshaken, unafraid, unstoppable. The coming days are not to fear, but to fulfill. Stay ready. Chosen one. The mark upon your life is not visible to human eyes, yet it burns bright in the realm of the Spirit. You've always felt it, the quiet awareness that you were set apart for something that could not be explained, only lived. Even as others moved through life easily, you carried a strange weight within you, something that whispered, "You are different." That weight was never a burden, it was evidence of calling. You have endured misunderstandings. Even from those who claimed to know you best, they saw only the surface, the version of you shaped by circumstance. But heaven saw the design written into your soul. Every season of isolation was divine surgery. God was removing the excess so purpose could breathe freely. The loneliness you felt wasn't abandonment, it was alignment. There was once a young shepherd named Royal, tucked away in a forgotten valley. His days were quiet, filled with the rhythm of wind and grazing sheep. But one morning, as he followed a wandering lamb up a steep path, he stumbled upon a cave where sunlight pierced through the cracks like threads of gold. Inside that light, he heard a whisper, "This is what I am doing with you." Roel didn't understand at first. Years later, when he stood before a crowd to lead them in truth, he realized that his hidden days were not wasted, they were weaponized. His obscurity had been his preparation. So it is with you. The hidden years were not punishment, they were rehearsal. Heaven trains warriors in silence before it reveals them in sound. You are not behind schedule, you are being built in secret for an open moment that will arrive without warning. According to what is revealed in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 19, "Many are the troubles of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him from them all." These words do not deny pain, they promise deliverance. You have felt the weight of affliction, betrayal that broke your heart, dreams that seemed to crumble in your hands, prayers that echoed unanswered. Yet even there, heaven was moving. Deliverance does not always arrive in noise. Sometimes it comes quietly, like dawn after a long night. The very storms that were meant to drown you have, in truth, deepened you. The mark of the chosen is endurance. You carry it in the way you rise again and again, refusing to let the darkness write your ending. What you call survival, heaven calls victory. Every time you choose peace instead of panic, forgiveness instead of revenge, faith instead of fear, you strike another blow against the shadows. You've wondered, why does the battle never end? Because your life carries light, and light always attracts resistance. The moment you stop shining, the warfare would cease, but so would your purpose. So hold your ground, The pressure you feel is proof that you are still on heaven's radar. Picture a sword in a blacksmith's hands. It glows under heat, screams under the hammer, cools in water, then is returned to the flame. Each stage strengthens the metal, removes its weakness. The process is long, loud, and relentless, but the result is a blade that will not break in battle. That's what God is doing with you. Fire, water, rest, repeat. Every cycle has purpose. You are not ordinary steel. You are heaven's weapon, fashioned for the days when truth must stand against deception. And though you sometimes wish for peace, understand, this true peace is not the absence of fire, but the confidence that the flame refines rather than consumes. Do not compare your journey with another's. Some are built for comfort, but you are built for conquest. The anointing that rests on your life demands endurance. It is a sacred trust, and it will carry you farther than talent ever could. Chosen one. The mark on your life ensures that even in the valley, grace finds you. Your scars are not shame. They are signatures of survival. The world may not understand your resilience, but heaven does. The same God who allowed the storm will be the one who stills it. So stand still for now. Let humility be your covering and faith your language. You have been chosen not to escape the fire, but to walk through it and come out radiant. In time, the world will see the light of one who has been marked not by man, but by God himself. And when that moment comes, every hidden season will make sense. You will see that nothing was wasted, not one tear, not one trial. Each scar will shine as proof of purpose fulfilled, and the world will know. This one was truly chosen by heaven. The war you face, chosen one, is not of flesh and blood. It is a battle waged in whispers, shadows, and unseen realms. Some days you feel the weight of it pressing on your chest, the heaviness when you wake, the sudden fatigue that has no cause, the doubt that creeps in mid-prayer. These are not coincidences. They are evidence that your light has been noticed by darkness. From the moment you began walking toward truth, the unseen realm stirred. Every decision to forgive, every moment of worship, every prayer whispered through tears, each one has disrupted hell's agenda. The warfare surrounding you is not punishment. It is confirmation that you have become a threat to what opposes God's will. There was once a woman named Selah who dreamed often of storms. Every night she saw waves crashing higher and higher, threatening to consume her. One morning, she prayed, "Lord, why do I always dream of floods?" And the Spirit whispered, "Because you have learned to walk on what others drown in." From that day, she understood that warfare only comes to those carrying something worth fighting for. You have walked through battles that no one else knows: mental exhaustion, spiritual resistance, sudden losses that made no sense. And yet, every time darkness came for you, it left frustrated, because your spirit refused to die. That persistence is your weapon. You don't even realize how many victories you've already won simply by not giving up. As the Apostle wrote to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 4, "The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God for the pulling down of strongholds." That verse is not ancient poetry. It is strategy. Your power does not come from argument or anger. It comes from alignment. When your spirit agrees with heaven, no force on earth can hold you. That's why you've been learning to respond differently, to pray before reacting, to bless before cursing, to stand still when chaos demands motion. You are not avoiding conflict, you are mastering it. Warfare in the shadows often looks like silence on the surface. You will not always see the enemy's movement, but you will feel the shift in atmosphere, the sudden heaviness, the random discouragement, the fog that tries to mute your faith. Do not panic. Speak light into that space. Worship breaks what worry builds. You've been wondering, why do I feel this battle so intensely when others don't? Because you carry authority they don't yet carry. Darkness attacks levels, not people. The greater your assignment, the louder the opposition. But also, the greater the resistance, the greater the reward. Imagine standing at the mouth of a cave. Inside is a treasure hidden deep within darkness. Only those willing to walk through the shadows will find it. That is your journey. Each step you take in faith illuminates the next. You don't have to see the entire path. You just have to keep moving. And remember this, God never allows warfare without a reason. Every battle trains your discernment, sharpens your spirit, and exposes your strength. Without the fight, you'd never realize how powerful you've become. Even now, heaven watches how you endure. Every tear, every prayer, every whispered, "I still trust you," is recorded. Nothing goes unnoticed. When the noise grows loud, retreat to stillness. When doubt rises, speak the word. When fear whispers, remind it of who you are. The darkness has limits. Your authority does not. The light within you has already won. It only needs your agreement to manifest victory on earth. Now, before you move on, I want you to do something symbolic. Write in the comments, "Light wins." Say it out loud as you type it. Declare it not just with your words, but with conviction. Because when you declare, "Light wins," you're not speaking into air, you're aligning yourself with heaven's decree. It is both a statement of faith and a prophecy over your life. For every unseen battle, every restless night, every tear that fell without witness, heaven says, "Light wins." And because you are chosen, that victory belongs to you. When you write, "Light wins," you are not performing a ritual, you are acknowledging truth. You're reminding both heaven and hell that your story is already decided in favor of glory. Every time you say those words, you weaken the chains that try to silence your voice. Understand this, warfare does not disappear when you speak faith, but its power over you dissolves. You stop being prey and become a participant in heaven's battle plan. Each declaration becomes a shield, each word of belief a sword. So the next time darkness presses close, don't retreat, respond. Stand tall, breathe deep, and whisper again, "Light wins." Delay is one of the subtlest weapons the enemy uses against the chosen. It rarely announces itself through chaos or noise. It creeps in quietly, wearing the disguise of patience, waiting, or practicality. You start with clear conviction, but over time, delay begins whispering that maybe you heard God wrong. It tempts you to exchange passion for logic, urgency for caution, destiny for distraction. You have felt that voice before. It doesn't shout, it suggests, maybe later. You're not ready? Wait for the perfect moment. Yet the perfect moment never comes. And before you know it, you've paused the very calling heaven told you to pursue. That's how delay works, not by destruction, but by distraction. It doesn't need to make you fall, it just needs to make you still. Delay can look harmless. It can look responsible, even wise. But when it dulls your obedience, it becomes deadly. There is a fine line between waiting on God and waiting away from God. One keeps you in faith, the other keeps you in fear. There was a woman named Keziah who once carried a burning vision to teach and help others heal. She wrote plans, dreamed boldly, prayed fervently, but every time the door opened, fear whispered that she wasn't prepared. So she waited. 1 year became 2, then 5. Her notes yellowed with time. Her dreams dulled. One night, she cried out, "Lord, why has nothing changed?" And the Spirit whispered, "Because I was waiting for you to move." Quote. That night, she understood. Heaven had never been silent. She had simply been still. Within weeks, she took the smallest step forward, and suddenly divine connections, favor, and clarity appeared. The lesson was clear. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. According to what is written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 12, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And deferred hope, the sickness of delay, weakens your spirit more than failure ever could. It convinces you that what you once believed was a fantasy, but hope that's revived gives life to everything it touches. When you finally step forward, even trembling, heaven meets that movement with miracles. Chosen one. You've been in a long season of waiting. But not all waiting is holy. There's a kind that strengthens faith, and another that suffocates it. The enemy thrives when you postpone purpose under the illusion of preparation. You keep praying for a sign, but heaven is waiting for your action. Faith is not stillness, it's movement under divine instruction. Delay speaks softly. There's still time. But look around. Time itself is shifting. Seasons are changing faster than before. The window you think will stay open forever is narrowing. This is not meant to frighten you, but to awaken you. God's timing isn't random, it's precise. And there are assignments tied to specific hours, moments, and places. When heaven calls, hesitation can cause you to miss divine intersections. Think of a seed planted in soil. If it waits too long before breaking the surface, the sunlight it was meant to meet moves on. Growth is not only about potential, it's about timing. The earth doesn't delay the sunrise for a hesitant seed. Likewise, destiny will not pause indefinitely for indecision. But grace is still here. You are reading this because heaven is offering a reminder. It's not too late to move. The same Spirit that began this work in you is stirring again. The voice you thought you lost is returning. The ideas that went dormant are waking. Delay has had its moment. Now it's time for obedience to speak. You might say, "But what if I step and fail?" The answer, you will learn. Heaven never wastes obedience. Even wrong turns can become right lessons. The danger isn't failure, it's stagnation. You were created to flow like a river, not remain a stagnant pond. Rivers don't wait for perfect terrain, they carve it. There is power in small steps. Write the plan. Speak the word. Reach out. Begin. Motion attracts revelation. You will not see the full picture until you walk toward it. That's why the enemy prefers you motionless, because stillness delays discovery. So, Examine your heart. What has God asked you to start, but you've postponed because of fear or fatigue? What dream have you filed away under someday? Bring it back. Breathe life into it. The time is not coming, it has come. In the silence of delay, heaven still whispers your name. It's not too late, but it's no longer early either. Move, not because you are certain, but because you are called. Obedience will always outrun delay, and faith will always finish what fear began. Something is stirring in you again, the sense that this is not just another message, but a reminder of who you truly are. You can feel the pull of destiny in your chest, like the faint hum of a melody you used to know by heart. It's heaven calling you back to awareness, whispering that your life still carries divine assignment. You've walked through silence and delay, yet your spirit still listens. You've faced rejection, yet your heart remains soft. That is proof of divine endurance. When others grew bitter, you grew deeper. That depth is your armor now. The days ahead will require watchfulness, not of fear, but of readiness. To stay ready means to stay alert, awake, and aligned. The world rushes faster every day, yet heaven calls you to slow down, not to stop, but to move intentionally. When everyone else reacts, you are meant to respond. When others panic, you are meant to discern. This is what makes you a watcher among many, a guardian of peace in an age of confusion. There's a story about a man named Ardan, who lived near the sea. Every evening he lit a lantern and climbed the hill to watch for ships in the storm. Most nights, no one came. But one night, the waves were high and the sky was black, and a ship lost its bearings. It saw the lantern on the hill and turned toward safety. Ardan didn't even know he'd saved lives that night. He had only stayed faithful to his small light. That's what it means to be a watcher. You might think what you're doing is small, praying quietly, encouraging someone, staying kind when no one sees, but heaven sees it all. The light you carry might be the signal someone else needs to find their way home. The writings in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9 remind us, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Those words are not just command, they are comfort. Strength and courage are not the absence of fear, but the decision to keep shining even when storms approach. Now, chosen one, let me speak plainly from the heart. Messages like this, words that reach across screens to stir sleeping souls, exist because of faithful hearts who help keep the lantern burning. Just like Ardan, with his light on the hill, it takes oil to keep the flame alive. The oil is not demanded, it's offered. If these words have spoken to your spirit, if they've given you peace or clarity in a season of confusion, consider helping keep this river of light flowing. Your support, whether through sharing, subscribing, or giving, is not payment, it's participation. You are not funding a voice, you are sending a current downstream so others lost in darkness may find the shore of peace again. Think of it like a stream that grows stronger each time. Another hand pours a little water in. Every time you like, share, or subscribe, you expand that stream until it becomes a river carrying hope across continents. And if your heart ever feels led to donate, let it be like dropping a small stone into water. The ripples will travel farther than you can imagine. There is no pressure, no condition, no demand. Give only if peace stirs when you do. If it doesn't, Receive this message as freely as grace. Heaven moves not through coercion, but through compassion. Your presence here already matters. Your listening spirit is part of what keeps this flow alive. When you share this message, you send light downstream. When you give, you pour into the current. When you simply pray, you guide the river's direction. Chosen one, the days ahead will test many, but together, we can keep this light moving. One ripple, one act, one heart at a time. So if you feel it in your spirit, like, share, and subscribe to keep this current alive. And if your heart whispers to do more, donate as quietly as a seed falling into soil, knowing that heaven will water what you release. Your generosity, in any form, becomes light traveling across the waters of the world. And remember, what you release in love never disappears. It circles back, multiplied in ways unseen. Every seed of kindness, every silent prayer, every small offering becomes part of a divine ecosystem where light keeps circulating, nourishing souls you may never meet. So, keep your heart open and your hands generous, whether through words, actions, or giving. You are adding another shimmer to heaven's great river of hope. The current moves because you choose to care, and through you, its light will never fade. You have begun to notice that the world feels heavier lately. Time seems to move faster. Decisions carry deeper consequence. And your spirit senses something approaching, a spiritual acceleration that cannot be ignored. Heaven is preparing to move, and those who are awake can feel the tremor before the sound. This is not fear speaking, it is awareness. You are not being warned to hide, you are being prepared to rise. When heaven prepares to act, it first aligns its chosen ones. The alignment begins within: your habits, your thoughts, your posture of faith. There are numbers that have echoed through the ages, divine codes that signify agreement between heaven and earth. They are not magic, they are memory markers, signals of covenant. You have seen them appear on clocks, receipts, signs, moments too precise to dismiss. Heaven often speaks in patterns because numbers cannot lie. In this season, one number carries prophetic weight for those who are watching: 888. It is a number of new beginnings, the cycle of grace completed and renewed. It's heaven's whisper saying, what ended in sorrow will restart in strength. When you begin to see it, pay attention. It means what was once broken is being rebuilt on higher ground. There's a story told of a man named Duran who lost everything in one storm: his home, his work, even the confidence to try again. For years, he stood before empty fields, unable to sow seed. One day, while walking the ruins, he noticed 3 stones in the shape of an 8. Something stirred within him, a spark of faith that hadn't died, only slept. That night, he prayed differently. He didn't ask for restoration, he thanked God for renewal. Within a year, he rebuilt not what he had before, but something greater. When asked what changed, he said, I saw 880, 8 inches the ashes, and I knew heaven wasn't finished. Willah, that is the essence of prophetic alignment. It's not superstition, it's synchronization. Heaven is aligning your life for new beginnings, and it is asking for your participation, not with fear, but with faith. Every time you believe again after disappointment, Every time you rise again after falling, you activate the frequency of 888. It becomes your agreement that what God starts, He sustains. As written in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who are called according to His purpose. And those words are not comfort for the lucky, they are instruction for the chosen. They remind you that even what seemed like loss was woven into divine architecture. Heaven wastes nothing, not your tears, not your silence, not your waiting. Everything folds into purpose. When heaven whispers numbers, it's not demanding ritual, it's inviting response. To write, to declare, to comment is not for show, it's to seal agreement. So when you see the number 888, remember Darren's story. Remember that God does not recycle your pain, He resurrects it. If this word resonates, take a moment and write 888 below. Not for luck, not for superstition, but as a symbolic declaration. I align myself with renewal. I choose to begin again. It is a small act in the physical that carries weight in the spiritual. Your written declaration becomes like a stone of remembrance, a marker saying, I stood here when heaven turned the page. Understand this. Your obedience to small prophetic acts is what trains you for larger miracles. The same God who honors a mustard seed of faith honors the number that seals it. Faith is not measured in volume, but in surrender. The days ahead will unveil both chaos and clarity, but those in alignment will stand unshaken. The number 888 is not only a sign, it's a rhythm. It represents completion, giving birth to continuation, grace that never runs dry. So when you type that number, see it not as digits on a screen, but as light written in heaven's ledger. You are declaring, I am ready for the new. You are aligning your hands, heart, and history with divine renewal. The coming season will reward those who discern the times, not with wealth or fame, but with wisdom and peace. You will find yourself walking in circles that fit your anointing, speaking words that shift atmospheres, standing where purpose and preparation finally meet. Comment 888. If your spirit says yes, let it be a seal of readiness, a personal echo to heaven's rhythm. This isn't about numbers, it's about awareness. The code is not the power, your faith is. And your faith is already moving, mountains unseen. You have walked through fire, chosen one, and though the flames felt fierce, you have not been consumed. Every scar upon your soul tells a story not of defeat, but of refinement. You have been in the furnace, not to be punished, but to be purified. The refining fire of God is not meant to destroy what is good in you. It burns away what cannot follow you into your next season. At times, it felt cruel. You asked, why must it hurt so much to be healed? But heaven never wastes pain. Every tear was an ingredient in transformation. Every ache, a hammer shaping your endurance. The refining fire is heaven's workshop. It is where strength is smelted, where purity is extracted, where the dross of fear and pride is melted away until only gold remains. You are that gold. And just as gold is not made valuable by its shine, but by what it survives, so are you. You have survived what should have broken you, outlasted what was designed to drain you. And even when you felt empty, grace refilled you quietly, like rain soaking dry earth in the night. There is a mystery to divine refinement. It reveals and conceals at once. It reveals who you are in God, but conceals you from those not meant to see your glory too soon. Some wondered where you went, why you withdrew, why you stopped explaining yourself. They didn't know you were in the workshop of heaven, where explanations are replaced by elevation. It is written in the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9, I will bring that third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. 1. These words are not distant prophecy, they are the pattern of your present. You are being refined to carry revelation with responsibility. God cannot place untested fire in untested hands. The season you've just endured was not the enemy's victory, it was heaven's vetting. When the refiner works, he never leaves the fire unattended. He bends close, watching the gold, until he sees his own reflection in it. That is how God has watched you closely, carefully, compassionately. When you cried and saw no answer, heaven was not ignoring you, it was guarding you. You were being molded in silence, shaped in secret, prepared in pain. Many look for quick deliverance from the flame, but the mature know that the goal is not escape, it's transformation. Deliverance removes you from danger, but refinement removes danger from within you. You are no longer easily shaken, no longer easily tempted by distraction. You have been forged into focus. Think of a potter working the clay. The pressure of his hands is not cruelty, it's design. Each push creates structure. Each stretch adds capacity. The clay that resists pressure cracks. The clay that yields becomes a vessel of honor. The fire you faced was God's hand creating space in you for greater glory. And when the heat felt unbearable, remember, fire never touches what is already pure. It only burns what doesn't belong. That's why you lost certain habits, relationships, or desires in that season. It wasn't rejection, it was release. What fell away wasn't meant to stay. What remains now is what heaven intends to use. You've come through the other side, quieter, wiser, humbler, but stronger. You no longer chase noise, you discern sound. You no longer crave validation, you value peace. You no longer fear endings. You understand they are often beginnings in disguise. There will come a day when those who doubted your endurance will see your transformation and ask, "How did you survive?" And you will smile not with pride, but with peace and answer, "I was refined." In every season of refining ends in revelation. The pressure you endured wasn't random, it was prophetic. It prepared you to carry what others could not bear. You now walk with weight, the kind of glory that cannot be mimicked, the kind that only comes from being forged in fire. So do not despise the furnace. Without it, there is no shine. Without it, there is no strength. The fire has done its work, and the refiner has seen his reflection in you. You are ready to be revealed, not as who you were, but as who you've become. You step out of the fire, not as the same soul who entered, but as one reborn in radiance. The ashes no longer cling, they testify. What once hurt now glows with meaning, and heaven whispers, "It is finished. Now shine." End of. There comes a time when heaven tests loyalty not to expose weakness, but to prove worthiness. The silence you've endured lately has not been absence, it has been assessment. God already knows your heart. but refinement must be revealed through response. When everything goes quiet and the old assurances fade, what remains in you becomes the truest offering. You've walked through nights where prayers echoed back unanswered, where even worship felt like speaking into a void. It's in those hours that the heart reveals its allegiance. Will you stay faithful when the music stops? Will you love when blessings pause? These are not cruel questions, they are divine ones. Heaven watches to see if your faith depends on favor or on relationship. A story is told of a man named Tamaris. Once fervent in prayer, he grew discouraged when months passed without breakthrough. One evening, under a starless sky, he sat beside a dying fire and whispered, "Have you forgotten me?" There was no thunder in reply, no vision, no voice, only stillness. Yet something in his spirit urged him to worship anyway. He lifted his face and sang into the dark. The song felt fragile, but it was real. Years later, Tamaris realized that his greatest victory had happened not when he received answers, but when he worshipped without them. So, it is with you. Heaven's silence is never a punishment. It is an opportunity to prove that your love for God is not a transaction. When you can no longer trace His hand, you learn to trust His heart. That trust becomes the bridge between promise and fulfillment. It is revealed in the writings of the prophet Habakkuk, chapter 3, verses 17 and 18. Though the fig tree does not blossom and there be no fruit on the vines, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Savior. Oh, that passage is not poetry. It is posture. True faith is not fragile optimism. It is anchored conviction. It does not depend on circumstances to confirm God's goodness. When blessings vanish and prayers linger unanswered, faith whispers, "He is still worthy." In these testing seasons, heaven observes how you handle absence. The silence is sacred space where loyalty is weighed and love is purified. You learn to stop chasing signs and start cherishing stillness. You begin to see that waiting is not wasted time. It is sacred trust in motion. When the heart matures, gratitude becomes its language, even in drought. You no longer say, "When this ends, I'll praise." You say, "Even here, He prays." That is when heaven knows you are ready for greater stewardship. For what can be trusted in silence can be trusted in success. There's an image worth keeping close, a seed buried deep in dark soil. It cannot see the sun, cannot hear the rain, yet it still pushes upward, because instinct tells it light is near. That instinct is faith. You may not see breakthrough yet, but something within you keeps growing toward promise. That quiet perseverance is heaven's proof that loyalty still lives. Loyalty to God doesn't always look triumphant. Sometimes it looks like getting up when you feel numb. Sometimes it looks like praying without words, trusting without evidence, believing without reward. These hidden acts of faith echo louder in eternity than public declarations ever could. Heaven values endurance far more than enthusiasm. Many confuse silence with separation, but the truth is the opposite. Silence is the space where God leans in closer. The absence of noise amplifies His presence in other ways, through peace that cannot be explained, through resilience that appears out of nowhere, through clarity that blooms after tears. The quiet is not void, it's an invitation, and in that quiet, your heart is learning a divine rhythm. When nothing moves, you still remain. The enemy cannot manipulate a heart that no longer needs evidence to believe. That is the power of loyalty. When heaven tests your loyalty, it's not asking for perfection, but perseverance. It wants to see if your yes can survive delay, if your devotion can stand without applause. And when it does, when you remain faithful without reason, you pass the test that opens the next chapter of purpose. The silence you're in is not the end of conversation. It's a pause before revelation. You will not stay here forever. The dawn is already rising behind the hills of your patience. Soon, what you trusted God for will begin to take form. But when it does, you will see it differently, not as reward, but as relationship restored. And when that happens, you will understand. The silence was never God walking away. It was God waiting to see if you would stay. Obedience. It is the doorway between promise and fulfillment, between hearing God and walking with Him. Every chosen one must pass through it, not once, but continually. The covenant of obedience is not a list of rules. It is the rhythm of a surrendered heart. You've learned by now that hearing God's voice is not the hardest part. Following it is. There are moments when His instructions feel too small to matter or too strange to make sense. Yet the smallest steps often open the greatest paths. God measures obedience not by understanding, but by trust. There's a story told of a woman named Lyra. She felt led to give away the last coat she owned to a neighbor in need. It made no sense, winter was coming, and she had nothing else warm. But something inside her whispered, "Do it anyway." She obeyed. 2 days later, a stranger stopped her on the street, offering her a new coat and a job that changed her life. Later, she said, "It wasn't about the coat, it was about learning to listen." That's how heaven works. The command rarely fits your comfort, but it always fits your calling. Sometimes obedience costs something visible. Sometimes it simply costs your pride. Either way, it's an exchange that transforms. As written in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 22, "Be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." Hearing truth without action is like owning a key and refusing to open the door. You can quote promises, sing worship, even pray daily, but without obedience, the door remains closed. Obedience is love, translated into motion. It's not fear-based submission, but faith-based surrender. When you obey, even in uncertainty, heaven takes notice. Every act of obedience, small or great, echoes in the unseen. It says, "I trust you, even when I don't understand you." That sentence alone breaks more curses than 1,000 rituals. You've likely felt that inner tug before the gentle prompting to speak, to move, to forgive, to release. And perhaps you hesitated, waiting for clarity. But here is a truth many overlook. Clarity often follows obedience, not precedes it. You see the next step after you take the first. Think of Abraham, leaving his home without a destination. Think of Peter, stepping out of the boat before the waves calmed. Their obedience wrote history. Every miracle in Scripture began with someone saying yes. And sometimes, obedience isn't about doing more, it's about stopping what distracts you from God's voice. The Spirit's leading can be a whisper that says, "Be still." You might not always understand, but every divine yes and every divine wait is preparing something you cannot yet see. Obedience doesn't guarantee an easy path, but it ensures a purposeful one. The obedient heart is never stranded, it's simply stationed for instruction. Even detours hold direction when God leads. The covenant of obedience also builds intimacy. Each time you listen and follow, you learn His tone, His timing, His tenderness. You start to recognize His voice amid the world's noise. Obedience teaches relationship, not religion. Sometimes obedience is staying when you want to run. Other times it's leaving when staying feels safe. It may call you to forgive where pride screams no, to bless when betrayed, to trust when tired. These are not tests for punishment, but invitations to partnership in the quiet. You might wonder, is my obedience even noticed? The answer is yes. Heaven sees the unseen choices, the prayers you prayed instead of retaliating, the silence you kept when words could wound, the acts of kindness no one clapped for. These are jewels hidden in the crown of faithfulness. And the beauty of obedience is this: you never lose by obeying God. You might lose comfort, control, or convenience, but you always gain clarity, peace, and presence. Now pause for a moment. Reflect on how far obedience has already carried you. There were decisions you didn't understand at the time that later saved your soul. There were detours that turned into deliverance. There were endings that were really beginnings in disguise. If this message resonates with you, write these words below: I will follow. And it's more than a phrase, it's a personal declaration. When you type those 3 words, you are not speaking to the algorithm, you are speaking to heaven. You are saying, my answer is still yes. It's your way of planting a flag in the ground of faith and reminding your soul who leads you. And in that obedience, your future unfolds, not rushed, but right on time. When you declare, I will follow, you aren't promising perfection. You're expressing pursuit. It means your heart remains open, your steps remain teachable, and your trust remains stronger than your fear. That is true obedience. Everything around you feels uncertain, systems shifting, relationships changing, foundations shaking. The world trembles under invisible weight, and many hearts are running on empty. Yet in the middle of all this collapse, you stand. You do not stand because you are stronger than others. You stand because grace has rooted you deeper. You are not built to crumble. You are the tree planted beside living waters, bending but never breaking. Storms will come, that is certain, but collapse is never the end. It is the clearing before construction. When walls fall, new space opens for what is real. Sometimes, God allows certain structures in your life to fall apart so that truth can breathe again. What was built on fear must break before love can rebuild. What was built on pride must crumble before peace can enter. According to the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 27, once more, God will remove what can be shaken, so that what remains cannot be moved. You, chosen one, are among what remains. Your faith, though tested, has proven unshakable. You have walked through storms that rearranged your world, but not your worship. You've discovered that true strength is not found in having everything together. It's found in trusting God when everything falls apart. There was once a craftsman who made wind chimes from broken glass. Each piece he used had been shattered by something violent: storms, accidents, neglect. But when he strung them together, their edges caught the sunlight and sang. When the wind passed through, people who saw them would say, It's strange how something so broken can sound so beautiful. And the craftsman would reply, "The secret is in the hands that hold them." End of. You are like those chimes. The fragments of your past are not wasted. They are rearranged into melody by divine hands. Even your cracks are instruments of grace. What once cut you now catches the light. Standing amidst collapse means learning the art of release, letting go of what no longer serves your soul, and trusting that what remains is enough. You might lose titles, routines, or plans, but you will never lose purpose. What's eternal cannot be erased. And even in collapse, community matters. There are others standing quietly, like you, broken, believing, rebuilding. When you reach out, you help someone else find their balance too. That's why this space exists. To be a sanctuary where faith gathers strength from faith. If these words have steadied you, take a moment to like and share them. Each gesture sends a ripple outward, finding hearts that are ready for hope. When you subscribe, you're not joining a channel, you're joining a circle of resilience, a chorus of survivors who still sing through the storm. And if your spirit feels stirred to go further, consider giving not out of obligation, but out of overflow. Think of it like planting a small lantern on a dark path. Your act of kindness becomes another light that guides someone home. Every seed of generosity fuels this sanctuary so others can stand when their world collapses too. You don't give to repay, you give to participate. You share because you remember what it felt like to need encouragement and find it just in time. You contribute because you want the next weary soul to know they're not alone. It's not about money, it's about movement, about light flowing freely through willing hearts. If all you can offer is presence, that's enough. If all you can give is prayer, that's gold. And if you choose to donate, let it be like rain falling quietly, life-giving, effortless, beautiful. Your generosity becomes part of the song that rises from broken glass. Chosen one, as the world shakes, remember, collapse is not your conclusion, it's your commissioning. You are not merely surviving the storm, you are learning to sing in it. Every gust of wind that once threatened you now carries your melody farther. So, breathe, look around. Even in the rubble, something radiant remains you. And if this message found you at the right time, like, share, and subscribe to keep this flow of light moving. And if your heart feels led, donate with peace, not pressure, knowing you are adding your flame to a constellation of hope. Because when the world collapses, it's the chosen ones who build again, piece by piece, light by light, until beauty rises from the broken. And remember this, generosity is never lost. It circles back like rain returning to the river. What you release in love will always find its way home, multiplied in unseen blessings. So let the world see your light, not your fear. Keep building, keep giving, keep standing, even in rounds. Heaven recognizes the strength that still shines within you. There are moments when heaven speaks not through thunder, but through dreams. When your body rests, your spirit listens, while your eyes close to the world. They open to another one, a realm where God paints messages in symbols, colors, and whispers. These are not ordinary dreams. They are divine dialogues disguised as night visions. You've had them before, dreams that linger longer than they should, images that follow you into morning light. Some were comforting, others confusing, some even terrifying, but all of them carried meaning. Heaven often uses dreams not to predict your future, but to prepare your heart. What you see in sleep can become instruction for the days ahead. There was once a man named Elian who dreamed of walking through a field of tall wheat. In the dream, a wind blew fiercely, bending the stalks but never breaking them. When he awoke, he felt an overwhelming peace. Days later, he faced a crisis that threatened everything he had built. But the dream returned to him, those stalks bowing, yet not breaking. It became a quiet promise that he would bend but not be destroyed. And so it was. Dreams are heaven's metaphors. They speak in language that bypasses logic and reaches directly into your spirit. A door might not just be a door, it might be opportunity. A storm might represent emotional turmoil. A child might symbolize new beginnings. When you wake from such dreams, write them down. They are puzzle pieces meant to be assembled over time. As written in the book of Job, chapter 33, verses 14 and 15, for God does speak now one way, now another, though no one perceives it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people, he speaks in their ears. Mt. These words remind you that heaven is not silent. Sometimes we are simply too awake to listen. In rest, the noise of the world quiets, and the Spirit finds space to speak. Some dreams carry warning. They come to redirect your path before danger approaches. Others carry comfort, reminding you that even in fear, God is near. And then there are prophetic dreams, those rare encounters where time itself bends and you glimpse something yet to unfold. Such dreams are not given for curiosity, but for stewardship. Heaven entrusts revelation to those who will treat it as sacred, not sensational. You may ask, how do I know if a dream is from God? The answer lies in its fruit. True divine dreams bring clarity, peace, or conviction, but never confusion, fear, or condemnation. Even when a dream warns, it does so with the tone of protection, not punits. You will feel God's presence in the message, even if you don't yet understand the meaning. Keep a journal by your bed. When you wake from a dream that feels different, write immediately every detail, every feeling, every color. The Spirit often reveals interpretation over time, piece by piece, like light breaking through fog. What doesn't make sense today may unlock clarity months later. Sometimes, heaven also speaks through signs in your waking life, repeated words, numbers, or encounters that echo the themes of your dreams. When the same symbol appears again and again, pay attention. The Spirit often confirms through repetition. Dreams are also mirrors. They can reveal hidden fears or desires that need healing. A recurring storm might reflect inner unrest. A locked door might symbolize an unhealed wound. God uses these reflections not to shame you, but to guide you toward wholeness. Healing begins where awareness is born. If you've ever awakened from a dream in tears without knowing why, it's because your spirit was in conversation deeper than words. Sometimes, heaven speaks directly to pain your mind cannot express. Those tears are evidence of release, God's hand reaching into unseen places, mending what words cannot touch. And then there are the silent dreams, the nights of nothing, where your mind is blank and you wake thinking heaven has gone quiet. Even that stillness is communication. Sometimes silence means rest. God will not overload the soul that needs peace. So don't chase dreams as if they are fortune-telling. Treat them as holy correspondence. Ask for discernment, not drama. The more you honor the messages of the night, the clearer they become. Heaven trusts listeners who keep their notes sacred. Dreams, visions, and signs are not random. They are the language of a loving Father, keeping conversation alive. Each one is a candle lit in the corridors of your heart, guiding you toward purpose, even while you sleep. The next time a dream stirs you, awake at 3 a.m. Don't dismiss it. Sit in the quiet and whisper. Speak, "Lord, I am listening." Then write, wait, and watch. In time, you'll realize that even while the world slept, heaven was working and you were being guided all along. There are moments when heaven presses upon your heart with urgency, not the panic of fear, but the weight of destiny. You feel it in your chest, in the sudden stillness that interrupts your routine, in the ways certain words or songs seem to echo louder than others. Heaven is saying, "Now, this is one of those times." The season you are entering is not random, it is orchestrated. You have been prepared through silence, refined through fire, and awakened through revelation. Now, the Spirit whispers again, move, act, align. There is a holy tension between waiting and walking. For a long time, you were called to wait, to listen, to rest, to learn. But waiting has done its work. It has stretched your spirit and strengthened your discernment. Now the rhythm changes. You are no longer being hidden, you are being positioned. The Word of God reveals in the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 4, "Be strong, all you people of the land, declares the Lord, and work, for I am with you." Now, this verse is not a suggestion, it's a summons. Strength and obedience must now travel together. The time for hesitation has ended. There is a window open over you, and heaven is inviting you to step through it before it closes. The urgency of now is not about rushing, it's about recognizing timing. The Spirit moves like the wind. You cannot control it. Only catch it. When you feel the divine wind rise, you must lift your sails. Miss that moment, and you drift, Zeitzit, and you accelerate into purpose. You've felt this wind lately, haven't you? The sudden motivation to start, the restless stirring that refuses to fade. You thought it was random inspiration, but it's divine invitation. You're not chasing momentum. Momentum is chasing you. This moment reminds me of a woman named Sapphira. For years, she dreamed of building a shelter for women in her town, but fear of lack kept her waiting. One day, during prayer, she saw a vision of a door swinging shut. A voice whispered, "Move while it's open." She took her last savings and started renting a small room for those in need. Months later, donors began to appear from unexpected places. When she looked back, she realized that one small act of obedience had opened a floodgate of provision. That is what heaven is saying to you. Move while the door is open. Delayed obedience is still disobedience, but swift obedience activates acceleration. The Spirit has gone before you, preparing the ground you are about to walk on. All you must do is take the step. When heaven releases an urgent call, It often comes wrapped in simplicity. You may not see the full picture, but the first step is already clear. Write the vision. Send the message. Forgive the person. Apply for the opportunity. Begin again. The blessing is not in understanding, it's in responding. This is also a time of alignment. Heaven is rearranging connections. Some will stay. Others will fade. Don't fight what falls away. The pruning is protection. The people assigned to your next season will recognize you by spirit, not status. The coming days will move quickly. Revelation will flow faster. You will sense divine nudges in places you once ignored. Trust them. What feels small today will become the hinge on which destiny turns. The key is sensitivity, staying tuned to heaven's rhythm while the world races in noise. And as a prophetic sign of agreement, write the number 555 below, not as superstition, but as symbolism. The number 555 represents divine change, heaven's restructuring of everything that no longer fits your calling. It is the number of transition and grace multiplied. When you type it, you are saying, I am ready for the shift. You are standing on the threshold of transformation. Everything that felt delayed is about to find direction. The very winds that once resisted you will now carry you forward, but it begins with one act: alignment. There's no more waiting for someday. The someday you prayed for is standing at your door. Step into the movement already in motion. This is your hour of divine activation. The urgency of now is not pressure, it is privilege. Heaven trusted you with this timing because your heart has proven faithful in the waiting. Now heaven says, go. Comment 555 as your declaration of readiness. Let it be your covenant with God that you will not shrink from the shift. The door is open. The wind is rising. Step through. When you write 555, see it as heaven's number for transition, grace multiplied by motion. It marks the moment your faith stops waiting and starts walking. You're stepping into divine change. Something profound is happening across the earth, though many do not see it yet. Quiet souls are awakening in every nation, men and women who have carried hidden faith, waiting for heaven's signal. It is as if an invisible cord vibrates between them, drawing their hearts toward the same divine frequency. You are one of them, part of this gathering of remnants. Remnants are not defined by number but by nature. They are the ones who refuse to let the flame die, even when the world grows cold. While others chase trends, remnants guard truth. They walk quietly, but carry thunder inside. They are heaven's response to darkness, sent not to condemn the world, but to remind it that light still lives. It has always been this way. When the earth drifts too far from its design, heaven calls forth the hidden, those purified in silence, those whose faith was forged in fire. Throughout history, remnants have risen in moments of shaking. When corruption spread, truth stood up. When confusion multiplied, clarity appeared. The same pattern is unfolding now. There's a story told of an elderly artist who spent years painting only clouds. When asked why, he smiled and said, "Because people forget to look up. That is what the remnant does. They remind the world to lift its eyes again. They live as mirrors reflecting heaven's perspective amid earthly noise." According to what is written in the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 7, "Then the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many peoples like dew from the Lord, like showers on the grass, which do not wait for anyone, nor depend on man. Lo, that verse reveals the essence of this movement. The remnant is like dew, gentle, refreshing, yet unstoppable. Dew does not announce itself, it simply appears, nourishing what would otherwise wither. You are that dew. The world may not notice your arrival, but it will feel your effect. Each remnant carries something specific, a word, a vision, a kindness, a strength. When these fragments unite, they form a mosaic of divine purpose. The enemy fears this unity because he cannot counterfeit it. This is not organization, it's orchestration. Heaven is composing a symphony of souls who never met but somehow move to the same rhythm in your spirit. You may have sensed this pull, a quiet awareness that you are not alone in your convictions. You've seen signs of it. Strangers who speak your language of faith. Encounters that feel orchestrated. Messages that confirm what you've heard in prayer. These are not coincidences, they are coordinates. Heaven is positioning its remnant in every field: media, art, business, education, and beyond, to be living witnesses. And though the world grows louder with deception, the remnant grows deeper in discernment. Their authority is not borrowed, it's born from endurance. They've learned to recognize truth by presence, not popularity. They've learned that real power doesn't shout, it shines. This awakening is not a rebellion against the world, it's a restoration of heaven's rhythm within it. The remnant's strength lies in humility. They do not fight with arrogance, but with awareness. They don't seek platforms, they carry presence. They don't demand attention, they draw transformation. You are being drawn into that same current. The more you listen, the clearer your role becomes. Some will speak, others will serve. Some will lead through words, others through quiet faithfulness. But all will carry the same fragrance, the unmistakable scent of heaven's dew upon their lives. Perhaps you felt unqualified, too broken, too small to matter. But remnants are never recruited from comfort. They are called from wildernesses. What you've survived has become your training. What you've lost has become your purity. The world measures value by numbers, but heaven measures by depth, and you have depth. Soon, you will see the connections forming more clearly. People across nations who've never met will start moving in unison. They will speak similar truths, release similar compassion, carry similar boldness. It will look unplanned, but feel inevitable. That's how heaven works, through alignment, not announcement. And when the world asks, "Who are these ones?" heaven will answer, "They are my remnants, the ones who never stopped believing, the ones who carried light through the longest night, and chosen one." Understand this. You are not a spectator of this awakening, you are part of it. Every time you love when others hate, every time you choose peace when others panic, you strengthen the network of light across the earth. You may feel alone, but you are surrounded by unseen allies, in silence, in prayer, in kindness. The remnants are gathering, not with banners, but with purpose, not for attention, but for alignment. The dew is already forming on the fields, and soon the morning will reveal what heaven has been preparing all along. Endurance. It is a crown not made of gold, but of scars. It rests on the heads of those who did not quit when quitting felt easier. Every chosen one who walks the path of destiny must wear it. Glory is not given to the swift, but to the steadfast, to those who keep walking, even when the road disappears beneath their feet. You have felt that exhaustion before, the kind that seeps into your spirit, not just your body. The days when your prayers felt heavy, when you had no words left, but still whispered hope into the silence. Those moments were not wasted. They were forging the crown of endurance upon your soul. Endurance is not just surviving, it is believing while surviving. It is standing when strength has run out and grace must take over. It's what happens when faith refuses to expire. It's the quiet decision to say, even here, I will still trust. There was a woman named Adira who once ran marathons in her youth. After an injury left her unable to run, she spent years mourning the loss of motion. But one day, a friend invited her to walk instead of run. She resisted at first. Walking felt like defeat. Yet, as she began, something changed. Each step became worship, each breath a hymn. She realized that endurance wasn't in speed, it was in staying. That's what heaven has been teaching you. You thought endurance meant rushing forward, but it has always meant remaining faithful. You thought it meant holding everything together, but it really means letting God hold you together when everything else falls apart. As recorded in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 36, you need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. That verse carries both instruction and inheritance. It tells you that perseverance is not a punishment, it is a process. God uses endurance to stretch your capacity for blessing. What you build in consistency, no storm can dismantle. The crown of endurance is invisible but unmistakable. It glows quietly in your spirit, marking you as one who has wrestled with the night and refused to let go until morning came. Every scar on your heart, every lesson carved into your patience, becomes a gem in that crown. The more you endure, the more heaven recognizes your maturity. There's a rhythm to endurance. It beats slowly, steadily, refusing to break tempo even when chaos erupts around it. It's the heartbeat of heaven within a weary vessel. It's what allows you to lift your eyes when you should have collapsed, to keep walking when the map has burned away. You may not realize it, but others are watching you quietly. They see how you remain calm under pressure, how you forgive without being asked, how you rise after every fall. Your endurance is preaching a sermon you don't even know you're delivering. Without a word, you are teaching them what perseverance looks like in flesh and faith. Endurance also sharpens discernment. Those who have suffered learn to see clearly. Pain removes the unnecessary and exposes the eternal. It teaches you to distinguish between what is urgent and what is important, between noise and the voice of God. In this season, endurance will carry you where strength cannot. The energy of enthusiasm fades, but endurance renews itself in silence. When the fire of excitement burns out, endurance becomes the slow, steady glow that keeps your soul alive. Think of the lighthouse on a stormy night. The waves crash, the winds scream, yet the light keeps turning, patient, constant, unfazed. That is endurance. It doesn't fight the storm, it outlasts it. You, too, are that lighthouse. Your light steady, not because the night is easy, but because the keeper fuels the flame. And when the night ends, endurance remains as testimony. The dawn will come, and you will see that every long wait, every unanswered prayer, every weary tear was not pointless. It was purchase, The crown you now wear was forged from persistence. So do not curse the slow seasons. They are sacred classrooms. Do not despise the pauses. They are part of heaven's pacing. You are not behind. You are being built. Your steps may be slow, but they are steady. Your faith may tremble, but it still breathes. Every heartbeat still says, I am here, and I am not done. That is endurance, the crown that cannot tarnish, the victory that cannot be stolen, the proof that grace still reigns within you. There comes a time when those who have endured must rise not as survivors, but as torchbearers. The ones who were once hidden in pain now carry a light that the world desperately needs. You are one of them. You've walked through the valleys of silence and come out shining with quiet authority. What once wounded you now fuels your wisdom. A torchbearer doesn't wait for perfect conditions to shine. They light the way precisely because the night is dark. They move through broken cities and weary souls, carrying warmth where hope feels cold. They are heaven's response to despair, living proof that endurance births illumination. You might think your story is too ordinary to inspire anyone, but light doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stay lit. Every time you forgive, every time you choose peace, every time you extend kindness when anger feels justified, you lift your torch a little higher. Someone walking behind you finds their way because you refuse to extinguish. There's a tale told of an old traveler who carried a small lantern through endless fog. When asked why he kept it burning, though he could barely see ahead, he said, "Because someone behind me might see my light better than I do." That's what it means to lead without knowing it. You shine not for recognition, but for redemption. As revealed in the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58. Be steadfast and immovable, always abounding in the Lord's work, for your labor is not in vain. That verse speaks of hidden work, the quiet acts of faith that seem unseen but resound in eternity. Every step you take in love is recorded. Every spark of kindness joins a greater fire. Now, this message itself is part of that fire. It travels through invisible airwaves, crossing languages, cultures, and miles of silence to reach hearts that have forgotten what hope feels like. Somewhere tonight, someone is reading these words in a dimly lit room, tears reflecting the faint glow of their phone screen, and in that fragile moment, light finds them again. You might never know their name, but heaven records the ripple your light created. Each time you like or share these words, you aren't helping an algorithm, you're handing light to another traveler. Maybe that traveler is sitting in traffic, whispering prayers they're not sure anyone hears. Maybe it's a mother up at midnight, holding on to faith by a thread. Your simple act becomes a spark that leaps from one heart to another, proof that kindness still moves through the world unseen. When you subscribe, you're stepping closer to the circle of torches, choosing to keep the warmth alive together. It's a small decision, but small things have always carried eternal weight, like a candle in a storm, like a whisper that outlasts the wind. If a sentence here feels like a mirror of your story, leave a comment not to be noticed, but to remind someone else that they are noticed. Sometimes a single sentence of faith in the comments becomes the rope another soul holds onto through the night. And if your heart stirs deeper, give as the earth gives rain, without announcement, without pride. Every donation is a drop of oil poured into this shared lantern, keeping the fire burning for those still searching for home. In the eyes of heaven, no offering is small if it carries love. Imagine it now, a vast horizon of souls, each holding a light kindled by another's courage. That is what your presence, your words, your giving creates a living constellation of compassion where no one has to walk in darkness again. Like, share, comment, subscribe, or give. Each act is simply another way of saying, I will not let the light go out. And if all you can do is carry this message in your heart, that too keeps the fire alive. For the truest flame is not in gestures, but in gratitude. So lift your torch once more. Let its warmth reach the weary, and its glow touch the lost. And if your spirit whispers to help feed this flame, do it gently, beautifully, as sunrise does, without demand, yet full of meaning. Because together, torchbearers don't keep light, they multiply it. And as the light keeps traveling, it gathers stories, thousands of them woven into one great flame that neither time nor distance can extinguish. Each soul who joins adds another color to its glow. So, breathe, and know this truth. You are not one spark among billions. You are a vital part of the fire itself. There is a moment when heaven draws a line that no one can cross, a final distinction between what belongs to light and what insists on darkness. This is not judgment in the way men imagine it. It is separation by nature. Just as dawn cannot exist with night, truth cannot merge with deception. The time of blending is coming to an end. You may have felt it already, the invisible pull in your spirit, the deep knowing that certain things can no longer coexist within you. It's as if heaven is whispering, choose clarity over comfort. The old compromises no longer sit easily on your heart because light is maturing inside you, pushing out what no longer aligns. The book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 8 declares, For once you were darkness, but now are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. These words carry both tenderness and warning. They remind you that identity demands consistency. To be light is not to be perfect, it is to be pure in intent, whole in direction, unwavering in truth. The final separation of light and darkness is not something that happens to the world alone. It happens first within the hearts of the chosen. This inner separation can feel painful. You begin to notice the distance between who you used to be and who you're becoming. Friends fade. Conversations shift. Environments that once felt normal now feel heavy. You might question yourself, wondering if you've become distant or strange. But this is not isolation, it's consecration. Heaven cannot fill what refuses to be emptied. There was a young sculptor named Leor who spent years chiseling stone. One day, a visitor asked him how he knew when to stop carving. Leor smiled and said, "When what doesn't belong finally falls away. That is what God is doing in you. Every strike of his chisel removes what hides your true design. Each piece that falls may feel like loss, but in heaven's hands, it's revelation. You were not created to live half in light and half in shadow. The division is not cruelty, it's clarity. You cannot walk in both directions at once. Heaven's line is love's boundary. It protects what is sacred. It defines what is divine. As the days grow darker in the world, this separation will become more visible. People will cling to illusion, choosing convenience over conviction. But those marked by heaven will walk differently. Their peace will seem strange, their joy unshakable, their discernment unsettling to those who prefer grey over gold. Do not fear this difference. Embrace it. Light is never intimidated by darkness, it simply reveals it. The presence of darkness is not proof of its power. It is proof that your light has entered the room. This separation also brings exposure. Hidden motives surface. Unspoken truths rise. What was built on pretense begins to crumble because authenticity is the new foundation. In this season, God is not punishing his people, he is purifying them. The shaking you see around you is not destruction, it is distinction. Heaven is making sure that what stands is real. The chosen ones are learning to discern quickly. The spirit of confusion will speak loudly, but truth will resonate like music, only your heart can hear. When that resonance happens, follow it. It is your compass through the chaos. This separation is also mercy. If God allowed you to stay where you don't belong, your spirit would suffocate. Separation hurts now, but it heals later. It's the pruning that precedes the bloom. The silence before the song. Every door that closes is making room for one that won't. Think of a horizon at dusk. The light does not fight the night, it simply withdraws, knowing dawn will reclaim its place. That's how this divine distinction works. God is not asking you to wage war with darkness, only to refuse participation in it. The final separation of light and darkness is not a warning meant to terrify, but a revelation meant to clarify. You are not losing the world, you are gaining sight. What once felt confusing is now becoming simple, if it costs your peace. It's not from God. If it dims your spirit, it's not your path. You are being drawn toward wholeness. Every part of you that still lives in compromise will soon have to choose. But you need not fear the choice. Light has already chosen you. The days ahead will reveal where everyone truly stands. And when the lines are drawn, you will not tremble. You will recognize that this is what you were refined for: to shine without apology, to stand without wavering, to love without blindness. The world may not understand, but heaven will call you faithful, and in that recognition, you will find peace deeper than any comfort, clarity brighter than any crown. There comes a sacred hour when all preparation ends, and purpose begins. The waiting, the refining, the separating, it has all been leading here. You have walked through fire, faced silence, endured storms. And now heaven says, step forward. The Great Commissioning is not an event, it is a becoming. It is the moment your calling stops being a promise and becomes a presence. You may not feel ready, but readiness in the kingdom is not perfection, it's willingness. God does not wait for flawless vessels, he breathes through faithful ones. What qualifies you is not your record, but your response. You said yes when others stayed silent. You stood when others turned away. That yes still echoes through heaven. It is written in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. This is your identity, not your ambition. You were never meant to blend into the landscape of ordinary living. You are a beacon, guiding, glowing, grounded. Every trial you survived polished your radiance. Every heartbreak you healed from widened your compassion. The fire that once threatened you now burns within you, holy and steady. The Great Commissioning begins in the quiet. It doesn't need ceremony or spotlight. It starts with recognition. It's when you look at your life and realize Every wound has become a window for light. Every delay, a doorway for destiny. Heaven did not waste a single second of your story. In this moment, you are being sent not as a preacher in a pulpit, but as presence in the world. You carry the kingdom in the way you love, in the way you listen, in the way you live. Truth without aggression or apology. The mission is not loud, it is luminous. There was once a gardener who planted seeds in the cracks of ruined stone walls. People laughed, saying nothing could grow there, but he kept tending them quietly. Months later, flowers burst through the fissures, turning the ruins into a living mosaic. The gardener smiled and said, "The cracks were the invitation. That's your story too. The very places you thought were disqualifications are now your points of impact. The cracks were never proof of failure, they were entry points for grace." As you move forward, understand that commissioning is not only about action, it's about awareness. You are being called to walk through the world differently, to see through heaven's eyes, to respond with heaven's heart. When others curse the darkness, you will build lamps. When others despair, you will speak life. When others retreat, you will remain. This doesn't mean life will grow easier. In fact, light always draws resistance. But you no longer stand as a victim of that resistance. You stand as an answer to it. You have become what darkness fears most: consistency. The Great Commissioning is not a single moment of sending, but a lifetime of staying aligned. It's not about grand gestures, but daily obedience. Sometimes the most powerful ministry happens in quiet rooms, in unrecorded prayers, in acts of compassion no one ever thanks you for. Heaven counts what the world overlooks. In time, you will see the tapestry of all these hidden acts woven together into something magnificent. Every yes, every small kindness, every prayer uttered in weariness, they have all joined to form a living map of divine intention. You are part of something vast and beautiful, a design that began before your birth and will continue beyond your breath. There will be moments when the road ahead feels uncertain. When it does, remember what brought you here. The same voice that called you out of hiding will guide you into harvest. The same grace that refined you in fire will sustain you in fulfillment. And as you go, do not seek greatness, seek presence. Do not chase applause, chase alignment. For those who live, commissioned by heaven, do not measure success by numbers, but by faithfulness. When the story of your life is read in eternity, it will not be titled by achievements, but by obedience. It will say, "This one heard, believed, and walked." That is enough. Now the path unfolds before you. Walk it with quiet confidence. Speak gently. Stand firmly. Love fiercely. You are not stepping into the unknown. You are stepping into what you were always meant to be. The world may not notice the moment you cross that invisible threshold, but heaven does. Trumpets may not sound, yet the angels know your name. Go forth. Chosen one. The preparation is complete. The assignment begins. And now, the words settle like dust after a sacred journey. You have walked through revelation and reflection, and though the message ends here, its light keeps traveling within you. The silence that follows is not emptiness, it is space for something new to begin. If this message has spoken to your spirit, let it breathe through your actions. When you like or share it, you are not promoting content, you are passing a spark forward. Someone, somewhere, might need the exact sentence that steadied you tonight. If your heart feels moved, leave a comment. A few honest words can become a small torch in the dark, proof that faith still breathes between strangers. You never know whose midnight you might brighten simply by showing that you've been here too. When you subscribe, you are not joining a channel, you are joining a circle of light. A quiet gathering of hearts, choosing awareness over noise. And if generosity rises quietly in your chest, give only as peace allows. Each offering, large or small, is like oil poured into the lamp that keeps this sanctuary glowing for others, still searching through shadow. What you give doesn't end here. It travels, multiplies, comforts. There is no demand in these words, only invitation. Choose what resonates, and let the rest be carried by grace. So, before you go, pause once more. Breathe deeply. Let gratitude move through you like dawn, light spilling over a quiet hill. Like, share, comment, subscribe, or give not out of duty, but as an act of beauty. For though this message fades, its light continues through you.